Hey, AJ from the Moto Academy here. We've got Kalana Humphrey. We got Lincoln. Don't know his last name. What's your last name? What is it?
Leverton.
Do you have an Instagram, I'd imagine?
Lincoln Leverton.
Excellent. Okay, he's probably got more followers than I do, and I'm too old. I don't know I'm not up with the times. But the one thing I can do, which I'm going to teach these guys, is how to hit supercross whoops. We're at Kalana's place. He's got a nice set of whoop-de-doos. They're a little dry, but that's okay. This is day one for me hitting whoops on a Stark. This is day
1.5.
1.5.
I've never hit whoops in my
Ground zero, so day zero for Lincoln. The difficult thing about the Stark is you don't have the clutch. You go from like 0 to 100th gear by the time you're at the third whoop if you're not careful. So what you actually need to do is you time each whoop with a little bit of throttle, gentle throttle. Like you really, I'm talking like when you hit the whoop where Ethan is, so the first real one, not the setup whoop, I'm meeting it with 15% throttle.
Okay.
That's it, like almost nothing, right? Balls of feet, because each time you hit a whoop, it's stupidly important, especially on these bikes, you have to sink heel. Like all the best whoop riders, you see them sink heel. That's what actually gives you traction, and that's what keeps the bike light when you hit the whoops. So when you get to, you might not make it this far at the beginning, but when you get to like 6 or 7 in, and you all of a sudden hit the small one, you have to make sure that you sink heel more on the small one because you got to get the weight into the bike and then get back up to the top of the big one. And then on the big one, you might sink heel less to keep the bike light and to skim across the top. So like your heel drop will change depending on where you are in the whoop. Big key is don't lean back. I know that seems the opposite of what you would think, but that's where people get themselves in trouble, is when they miss and drop and they're like this, and then that's the best way to do a front flip. And the good news is, and a lot of people don't realize this, is you can practice and then drop in. And I think, well, I'll try to do a demonstration of that. Like I'll skim 1, drop. I'll skim 2, drop. So you can give yourself the confidence of like, oh, okay, this is what it feels like. Always having a finger on that control, both controls really. So if you need to use the brakes to drop in, you can. When you get comfortable, it all is determined on this first one, like hitting as high up. And when you get good at whoops, you actually miss the first one with your front tire. We don't have to do that today necessarily, but just hitting this one as high up as you can so that way you don't get that initial teeter-totter. Because if you start with the teeter-totter, it's only going to get worse when you get to the end. And it is completely, doing that is completely reliant on keeping your head far enough forward. Had I done that with my head further back, I would have bucked and I wouldn't be able to stop. Like keeping that head forward and keeping the hips in the right spot is the most important part. And you could do that. You're going to tear apart the whoops, but you can do that all day long to just build some confidence in yourself, right? And you could even do less than that. Sometimes it's scary to just make the impact with the first whoop. If you do that a few times, that's even going to help with confidence. Pretty good. And that's not much of a commitment going in at all. Yeah, he's doing a good job. It's hard on this bike. I think your guys' stuff is a little stiffer than mine.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the faster I enter, the more I blow through.
Oh, for sure.
Which
yeah,
is a bummer.
Like not the last one, but the one before, you blew through him pretty hard.
Wicked. And I tried to enter fast for once, and it was just like, the bike was like, no. But even then, it's good practice to just try and keep it light, because most people would have made that look worse. Like you'd get so heavy into the whoops, and then you just get the aggressive teeter-totter. But it's like always staying with that head super far forward. The biggest theme is when you see people that don't know how to do whoops or rookies that are like new to it, they all lean back because they get scared. And not only do they lean back, they'll do the old freaking back roll hunch, right? So it's like, yeah, good luck getting through with that, because you're just going to absolutely teeter-totter yourself. Can you go do a couple passes that I could watch from here? He's doing great. For being a smaller guy too, like he's staying forward on it.
It's so loose right now.
Yeah. I really don't think that looks bad at all. I'd be curious to see what happens with that suspension if you did commit a little bit more on the first one.
Okay, like just go higher?
You need to hit the first, can you hold this for me? So you're hitting the first one, I don't know, back tire is probably here. you just need to aim to try to get the back tire here.
Okay.
So your front should be right. I mean, you don't want to go too high. If you hit your front here, then you're going to blow too deep into the third one, obviously, right? But you just need to aim 4 inches higher on this one and then immediately readjust focus and hit 4 inches higher on that one.
Okay.
Like I said, like these two determine the whole section. Beautiful. That made a big difference. But that isn't necessary. Like the last 3 or 4 where he felt the need to kind of like ride it out. That's where you can make the conscious decision to back it down. Dude, great. So where that went wrong is you felt the need to kind of like stick to that commitment. You don't have to. If you start breaking loose and get wheel spin 4 or 5 whoops in, and you want to back down the RPM a bit and drop in a little bit more to get it back under control, you need to make the decision to do that. Because if your mentality is like, okay, if I commit in, that means I need to just stick with it no matter what, even if it gets ugly, that's what's going to turn into a crash.
Okay.
That wasn't that bad, but
Yeah.
I could see it getting worse, and you're
Yeah,
just like, screw it.
it was just getting so loose.
And it comes at you quick, too, but this was good. Much lighter. Like, if you were to watch the footage back, it even sounds different. Like, it shakes the ground less. And that's it. I mean, for you, learning whoops, learning the first 2 and how to keep the bike light in the first 2 is the key. And the hardest part on these is just keeping RPM low. I'd be curious what, like, Josh Hill would say, or people that have...
Like Bogle, yeah.
Bogle, yeah. Like, people that have proper Supercross experience on these. Were they jumping the whoops? Were they skimming them? I don't know. Little whoop practice. I think these guys, especially for being young, are really calculated and smart. So, like, they know what they need to do, what they don't need to do. It's just good to have somebody there to give a little bit of guidance. I think whoops are the one thing specifically that a lot of people just have no idea where to even begin, right? And a lot of the things I would have said in this video probably are the opposite of what your intuition would be and what you would guess to be true.